In this video, I'm going to be going over how to use the program Kurzweil 3000. I'm just going to be going over some general use information for both students as well as staff members in the office, and I'm also going to be going over some administrative things toward the end so that you'll have that knowledge in the future. So you don't actually have to download anything to your computer to be able to use Kurzweil. There are downloadable versions of the program. There is a Mac and a PC version, and you can download them from the Kurzweil website. When your account is created, you should have an email that has your account information listed in it. It'll come from kurzweil3000.com. It'll say your email and your password. It will also have a link to this website. And then in the bottom, and there's a paragraph in that email, and there are two different downloadable versions, a Windows version and a Mac version. If you did need either of those versions or preferred them, you certainly can use them. But in this video, I'm going to be going over how to use the web version. The web version is very convenient because it is actually the same across both platforms. So whether or not a student uses a Mac or a PC, it looks the same for both students. It is also very helpful because there is a function in Kurzweil called the Universal Library that I'll be going over in a little bit. The Universal Library is just a cloud storage system, and that cloud storage system can be accessed from any computer. So because you can just access Kurzweil on a website from any computer, if you forgot your computer at home or your computer wasn't working that day, you could log in from a pod's computer or any other computer on campus and still access the same documents that you would on your personal computer. So first, I'm just going to sign in, and again, you should have an account made for you by someone in the office. If you do not have an email with account information, please reach out to someone in the office and request an account be made for you if you are still waiting for one. So once I'm logged in, this is the main screen that the program is going to open up to every time. You can see here that I have a couple of different options for how to open up files. Kurzweil can open up any sort of text or image file. So the main two you'd be using are Word files and PDFs. It can also open up like TXT documents. It can open up a wide range of documents. Now, some students may have PDFs or Word documents that their professors give them. You can actually open these up yourself. You would just go to this computer icon in the top right, and then this will search within your computer in your file explorer. So wherever you have your documents saved, you can just click on them and open them up. Very simple. Any files you have saved in your Google Drive, you can also upload into this program. If I click on Google Drive, if you're not already signed in to your Google Drive, it'll ask you to sign in, and then you can just select any document that you have in there. So any sort of PDFs you have saved, any Word documents, or Google Docs as well, it can open all of those, which is great. The last option is that Universal Library that I mentioned. Now I think this is misnamed because it's not actually a library full of books. As I said earlier, it's a cloud storage system. So it's like Google Drive or iCloud. So any files that you have saved in this Universal Library are going to be accessible to you from any computer that you would log in from. So that's why it's incredibly helpful to save things in your Universal Library. The other nice thing about the Universal Library is that it will save all of your changes automatically to any of the documents that you do make. So just like Google Drive, if you make any edits to the document, it saves it automatically and you don't have to be worrying about anything. Now, you can see I have a file or a folder with my name on it, and each student will have one with their name as well. And each student is going to have a private folder and a public folder. Now, I'm sure some students are going to have some concern with the folder being named public. This program was actually designed not specifically for use in an office like ours, where information needs to be confidential. Kurzweil was actually partially designed for classroom use. So in the future, you might see it in classrooms. For now, it's not the case here, at least. But the private folder was meant to be any files you wanted to keep just for yourself. The public folder was supposed to be something that you could share with your other classmates. So, for example, the account that I use to create accounts is the teacher account, and this is a student account. So a student can save files in whatever folder they want, private or public, it doesn't matter. No one will be able to see any of that information they have saved in there except for someone in the office, or who works in the office. Any books that we give to students, we generally put in their private folder. That is where we upload them. And if you do send a book to a student, just let them know that it is in their private folder once it is sent. Now, if you want to upload your own documents into your universal library, you certainly can do so. You can first just click on the folder you want it to be added to. So say I want it into my private folder, or if I wanted to make a new folder, I can right-click and add a new folder. I can also rename folders, anything I want to do. So let's say I want it to go into my PDFs folder. I would then just click this orange upload button in the top right. I would then choose the file that's downloaded on my computer, and then it will upload it straight into the Universal Library. So I will now have a copy of that file in my Universal Library in the folder that I designated, and then I can open that whenever I want to, and any changes I make will be saved automatically. Now, that's just how to open up files. For the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to open up a sample document that's available down here. So I'm going to go to Samples, Reading A through Z, and then there are all these documents here. So if you're ever training another student how to use this program, you can just click on any one of these. It doesn't matter, they're all just like random sample documents that Kurzweil's made. So I'm going to click on alternative fuel cars. And it'll just take a second to open up. So there's actually a note on this page right here. I'm just going to ignore that for now. I'm just going to open up to the first page here. So what you're going to see is basically just a PDF of your document. You're just going to see the document in the Kurzweil program. Now, Kurzweil, I haven't stated it previously in this video, Kurzweil is a text-to-speech program. The very basic premise of this program is that it is going to read out loud what you see on the page, and it's going to highlight along while it does so. And I'll show you that in a second so you can see what it actually looks like. First, I'm just going to navigate to a page that has some actual text on it. There's a couple of different ways you can go to the page you want to. You can use the buttons that are located on the left and right hand side of your pages to go either backward or forward. In this bottom left text box, you can also type in a page number, but please note the page numbers will not actually sync up with, or not necessarily sync up with the page number that is available on the page itself. So say in this document, I'm actually looking at pages 300 through 320, but the document is only 20 pages long. If I wanted to get to page 320, in the bottom left, I would have to type page 20, because it's not copying the page number from the document, it's just counting how many pages are in the document. The easiest way to navigate through your document is probably to do what I did earlier without explaining it. If you go up to this page with the magnifying glass icon, it says thumbnail view here. If we click on that, you'll see a thumbnail of all of your pages, and you could just click the one that you see that you want. So I'm going to click on this first one that has an actual paragraph of text. I'm also going to zoom out of this page a little bit, which I can also do in this magnifying glass window as well. You can either fit the document to the width of your screen so that it will look consistent all the time, or you can deselect that option and zoom in or out as much as you want to. So to get the program to start reading, first you want to make sure this cursor is blinking where you want it to. The program is going to start reading from this red cursor. Right there. When you see that red cursor blinking and it's where you want it, you just click this big play button up here, or you can hit P on your keyboard.
Every day, people around the world burn huge amounts of gasoline as they drive their cars and trucks. As a matter of fact,
So I apologize if that was too loud. So as you can see there, and I'll turn down the volume this time so that you can just look at the highlighting. As you can see, the program highlights as it reads, and you can see there's an orange colored highlighting and a green colored highlighting. The green color, if you haven't seen already, is the word that is currently being read, and the orange is called a reading unit, which I'll go over in a second. Now, it may seem simple, but what you want to do is, it can be very tempting to just listen to this and treat it like an audiobook and just listen to your reading. but particularly if you have issues or if a student has issues with reading comprehension, staying focused on the page, just generally retaining information as they're reading, you want to make sure to encourage them to look at the green word while they're reading. And while it seems simple, looking at that green word and hearing the word being said at the same time helps your brain form an association between what you're seeing and what you're hearing. So instead of reading over the same word over and over again and not comprehending, it should help you recognize that word the first time so you can read more efficiently. Now that orange highlighting, the reading unit, that's just to help you stay focused on a certain section of the page, and that's really going to be up to your preference. Any of those preferential options that you want to change, you can do so up in this gear icon in the top left. And you can see it says audio options. So we have a couple of different ways of changing of how the program will actually read. And each student is going to use different options. It's really up to their preference, whatever is best for them. So encourage them to try out different options and see what works. The first is they can change the voice of the program. There are a bunch of different voices available, and there are actually ones available in different languages, but for our purposes, we're going to stick with a US English voice. Now, there's no one voice that I would recommend. They all sound robotic to some extent. We're not at a point where these voices will sound perfect or sound like actual human synthesized voice. So again, just encourage students to use whichever voice they prefer. Next is the reading speed. So you can set the reading speed. You want to make sure that it is as close to your own reading speed as possible so that the green word is not going too fast or too slow. Unfortunately, in this version of the program, you cannot set a particular words per minute for it to read at. It will just go up either faster or slower. So just get it as close as you can to match your own reading speed. These options down here, I'm going to just skip for now. They're not relevant to the reading portion of this program. There's a writing portion as well, but I can go over that at the end of this video. So now we have a unit. That is what I went over earlier. That is this orange highlighting. So again, the unit is just to help you keep focus on one particular section of the page. I personally like line. That is what works for me, but what works for every student is going to be different. So you could do line, you could do sentence, or you could do an entire paragraph, whatever works. And then the mode here is just how much the program is going to read at a time. So if we click on continuous, the program is just going to keep reading until I pause it again. If it is on self-paced, it will read one unit and then it will stop. In this case, my unit is line, so it's going to read one line, it would stop, and then I'd have to hit play again. And word by word, we'll just read one word, and then it will stop, and you'd have to hit play again. So for certain students, it can be helpful to just go one unit at a time, really soak in the information, or stop, take some notes, and then they can hit play again. But for most students, they probably will just keep the program on continuous and have it keep reading until they are ready to pause it. So those are the audio options. Now that you know about those, these skip buttons to the left and the right of the play button, they will skip one unit at a time. So in this case, if I were to hit back or forward, it would skip one unit, or one line, in this case, back or forward. Next to the skip buttons is this mute button. This will not mute your entire computer, it just mutes this program. So if a student would like to follow along with their reading in the middle of class, but not have it read out loud to cause a distraction, they could click this, and the highlighting will still happen as it is right now, it just will not make any noise or speak the words out loud. This button is speech to text, and again, that is more for the writing portion of this program, so I'm not necessarily going to go over that right now. To finally just wrap up the couple of different things on this top toolbar, in the top right here, we have some reference materials. So there are more study tools available in this program, which I'm going to be going over in a moment, but just up in the top right here, we have reference materials. So if you want to look at a particular word to define or look up a synonym for that word, it even has a translation function as well if you were looking at something in a different language. We can first just highlight that word, and to do that I can just click on it, and then I can click dictionary or synonyms, and it will give me either a synonym or the definition of the word. So it's just kind of helpful to have that built into the program. final thing in this top toolbar, in that same magnifying glass icon that I was looking at earlier, we have a couple of different things right here that are helpful. These bottom icons really aren't going to do too much, so we're just going to focus on up in the top right and these display tools. If a student has issues with particular colors, if they are colorblind or they see different colors better, unfortunately, at this moment, you cannot change the color of the highlighting that happens while the program reads, but you can change the background color of the page. So if you would prefer the background of the page to be one of these colors, you could certainly choose that. So to show you, I'll choose rose. And you can see now it's a pinkish hue. So if that's easier for a student to see, encourage them to try out these different options. I'm going to change it back to white. And then finally, download format. If anyone wants to re-download the file that they have edited, if they add anything to it, they can just select an option here, either PDF or Word or any of these other options as well. And once they choose one of these, it will download that file automatically. So that is just the top toolbar here, just going over that quickly. And that's just the very basic premise of how to get this program to read for you and how to get it to read the way you want it to read. Everything else in this video is going to be about these study tools that are available in the left toolbar that you can see. And I'm just going to work top to bottom. They're all fairly self-explanatory, but I'm still going to go through them anyway just to make sure that you know how they work. So the first one we're going to go over is bookmarks. And bookmarks are going to be placed wherever your cursor is blinking. So right now my bookmark is going to be placed where the word introduction is. That's where my cursor is. So you can name your bookmarks in the description. You can name it whatever you want to. It could be where you stopped reading on a certain day. It could be marking something important like a particular quote or a definition that you like. And then once you have the title, you just click Add. Once it's added, you can see this bookmark icon here. And once that's ready, you can either click on this icon again or click on the main bookmark icon to view your bookmarks again. So I'm going to click on this, and now you can see my bookmark is listed here in this list in the bottom. You can either list them by alphabetical order or by the reading order, so in what order they come in the document. And you can see what page that bookmark is sitting at as well. Bookmarks are just a way for you to navigate to a certain page. So now I have a bookmark on this page, and now if I ever wanted to come back to this, just for easy access, I could click on that
Introduction.
bookmark. I click on the bookmark, and then I click Go To. And it would jump me right to this page. So you can set up a system of bookmarks for yourself so that if there are important things you need to go back to for studying or mark where you stopped reading, you can just set up a bookmark and go right back to there whenever you want. If you ever want to delete a bookmark when you're done, you'd go back into that menu,
Introduction.
select the bookmark, and click Delete. And now the bookmark is gone. The next option I'm going to go over is highlighting. Highlighting is also fairly self-explanatory. I'm going to click on highlighters here, and you can see I have a whole bunch of different colored highlighters that are available to me. All these highlighters, including these circle options and the strike through option, they are all click and drag, and the eraser as well. So I can just choose whatever color I want or the eraser. Now you can see my icon changes. So I just click and drag as much as I want, and I can highlight anything I want. Now, there's an incredibly cool thing you can do with the highlighters, and it's called Extract Notes and Highlights. In order to show you that, I'm just going to highlight a couple of things here so that I have something to work with. So let's say all this stuff was important information. So if I click back on highlighters, and I go all the way to the right, and this orange button here, it says Extract Notes and Highlights. If I click on that, it just gives you a little note about what it means. I click OK. It will take a second, but now what it's going to do is it's going to load a separate document, and this separate document has all of my highlights that I just took and puts it in its own document. So basically, this is just a very simple way of making the basics or the structure of a study guide for yourself. So long as you are actively highlighting along while you're doing your reading, at the end of your reading, you can just pull out all the information that you need and have a study guide available for you. Now, unfortunately, you can edit this a little bit if you want to, but you have very little option in terms of editing and formatting. So, for example, I can keep typing in here if I want to.
5. A. Page 5 lists a test.
So I can type more things into this if I want to. I can also get rid of this highlighting color or change the highlighting color. And you can see up on the top here, you can give it like a bold or italicize or underline. You can also change up the font and the font size a little bit, but past that you can't do much else. So you can't set margins, you can't insert a header or footer. And so while this is good for editing the content of the page, you can't actually make it look much nicer. So what I recommend is using this extract function to pull out the important information and then either downloading this file, so you can go back up to the magnifying glass and download it, or just copy and paste all of this and paste it into a separate document, either Word or Google Doc, and work on it from there and make it look nicer. You can see what it also did is it'll actually, when it extracts this information, you can see it's put it into its own sort of outline format. So you can see it has different prefixes and different levels of indentation. Now, you can actually set these yourself beforehand so that if you want it to automatically be put into an outline format like this, it will do it automatically so you don't have to do it after the fact, which is incredibly convenient. Now, the only negative side of doing this is there's no easy way to go right back to the page of your text that you were just looking at. So unfortunately, I now have to go back to my universal library. So to do that, I hit these three horizontal lines and click Universal Library. So that's the bad news. I can't easily go back to my document. The good news is once you click on that same document again, because this is a cloud system, like I said, it will save all of your changes, including what page you were on. So it actually just loaded me back to the same exact page I was on, and you can see it saved all of my highlighting changes. So that's super convenient. That's the good news. Now, as I said, you can change up how the program extracts all of your highlights. So to do that, I click back on highlighters. And then here, you can see it says Customize Highlighters. This will open up a separate window in which you can see the different colors of highlighters you have available, and then some options here. So first, I can choose what I want to extract. So if I wanted just my yellow and green highlighters, I could uncheck everything but yellow and green. I can also name my highlighters and give them certain captions. So let's say I want my yellow highlighter to be for definitions, I want my green highlighter to be for important quotes, etc. You can give it whatever sort of system that you want to, any sort of designation. You can set how much each highlighter indents, so if you want one to be more indented than another. This is for the outline purposes. And these are all by inches. So this one's 0 inches, a half an inch, inch and a half, and so on and so forth. And then finally, you have these prefixes available. So you can just make one either a subheading or a main heading, whatever you want to. The column portion here is also important, but I'm actually going to skip this for now and come back to it in a few minutes when it is relevant. Whenever you make these changes, you just click Save, and then you're good to go. Now, whenever you do highlight, what will happen is, and this is the same for making notes as well, which you'll see in a moment, whenever you highlight, in order to go back to your normal cursor, you will have to click on a button. So you can see I'm stuck in highlighting right now. So to change it, you either have to go back into highlighters and hit the cursor icon, or you can hit escape on your keyboard and it will do the same thing. And now I'm back to my regular cursor and I can choose where I want to read on the page. The next thing I'm going to go over is notes. So in notes, you can actually add notes to the side of the page or center of the page, whatever you want. Like add notes in the margins so that you can just have little notes for yourself. There are two different options. They are called sticky notes and text notes. They are the same exact thing, just a sticky note is colored and a text note is white. So a sticky note starts yellow by default, but you can change the color of it down here to whatever you want. So it's really up to your preference. If a color would stand out to you more, or if you want it to blend in with the background of the page, you could use a text note. Now to add either of these, I would click one of their plus buttons to add it. And now you can see I have a little note next to my cursor. So now every time I click, I'm going to add a new note. Now with these notes, they're basically text boxes. So you can grab them by the margins and make them bigger or smaller. You can also grab them by the side and move them around the page. And then inside of these, you can type whatever you want to. So it's just an easy way for you to type little notes to yourself. If they're ever in the way, you can go back into notes and you can see there's an I next to each of these options. Clicking on the I will hide these notes. It will not delete them, it just takes them out of view. So now you can see my notes have disappeared. And you can see there's a little diagonal line through this I. That means that they're hidden. If I click on it again, they will all appear. So again, just a simple way of putting notes onto the page for yourself. This up here is called a bubble note. While it doesn't have a name right above the icon, it can be very helpful. It sort of has a niche use, but it can be helpful for some students. So again, much like the bookmark, this is going to get added wherever my cursor is currently sitting. So I believe my cursor right now is at the bottom of the page. That's where the bubble note will go. Now this separate menu is going to pop up. A bubble note is basically a quiz question that the student can design themselves, and they can then quiz themselves on their own material if they want to. So over here in the top right where it says open options, you can see you can edit how the note will actually open. So right now with the settings I currently have, the note is going to open while the program is reading, and it's going to open after whatever unit I have selected is read. So if my unit right now is on line, so when it finishes reading that line, it will then open the bubble note for me. So basically, once you finish an important section of your text, the bubble note opens and it will immediately quiz you on that topic. Now next to question options, that's where you can set what question appears. And you can write this question yourself. So I can choose a true or false question, I can choose multiple choice and type in all of my answers here. I can add as many as I want and choose which one is the correct one. Up here in the body, I can type in the actual question itself. And down in the bottom right, you can add an image to the question if that's helpful. So you have a lot of different customization you can do. And then once you're finally done with it, you can click Save. And then you'll have a quiz question. Now, if a student wants to be proactive and really be quizzing themselves on their material a lot, they can go through and set all these up ahead of time, or just use it for review purposes. It's really up to the interpretation of the student. To delete any of these notes that you make, including bubble notes, we click on this red X, and then each time I click, I will delete a new note until I go back to this cursor icon or I hit escape on my keyboard, very similar to the highlighter. Next is these options in tools. They are actually all grayed out, and for most purposes they will be grayed out. The two main things that you would be using in these are zone editing and edit underlying text. And I'm actually going to go over those in a separate video, so I'm not going to worry about them too much right now. But if you need to learn how to either edit underlying text or zone edit, please check out my other video regarding that. The final thing in this program I'm going to cover are these column notes. And column notes are just another way of taking notes for a student while they're doing their reading. To add a new notes file, I'm going to click on this green icon with the plus button. And you can see these columns pop up. Now you can add as many rows as you want with this plus button here. So now I have a bunch of different rows available to me, and you will only have 3 columns, but you can kind of change up which ones you use. You can title these columns whatever you want to. By default, I usually tell students that this is very well set up to make a vocab guide if you wanted to. So this main ideas portion could be the word you are defining. Supporting ideas could be the definition of the word, and this third column could be an example of the word. But honestly, it can be used for whatever purpose you can think of. I also think it's set up pretty well to quiz yourself in a flashcard format. And the way you can do that is with this icon up here, with the middle one highlighted, it will actually cover up the second column. It won't delete the second column. So if I just
This a test.
type in some information here, I click on that icon, it covers it up. And if I click on it again, it will expose it again. So in this second column, you could type answers to questions, and in the first column, you could type the actual question, and then just use this as flashcards to quiz yourself. You can also use this next icon to just get rid of the third column altogether. So then I just have one very large second column that I can also cover up. Whenever you're done taking your column notes, you can use these buttons over here to save the file to your universal library, so that the next time you want to open up a notes file, you don't have to start from scratch, you just open up one that already existed. You can do that by clicking Open Existing Column Notes here, or by going back into column notes and using this purple icon to open a new one. The final thing you can do with column notes is you can actually extract your highlights into column notes as well. So how we extracted into a separate document before, if you want to extract into the column notes format instead, you certainly can. You would just use this button here to extract to either a vocab study guide or column notes, whichever one. You can try out both and see which one works best for you. But if you want to make sure that they are extracting to the columns that you want, we're going to go back up to highlighters and click on Customize Highlighters again. This is where this column function comes into play. So you can designate a certain highlighting color to go into a certain column. So you could, in this case, yellow will go to 1, green 2, and blue is 3. So you can choose whatever order you want and have them fill into certain columns. So again, that's just another helpful option for students to take notes. All of these options are really going to be up to the student. Now, generally before you show students any of these, you should ask them what kind of study tools or just studying methods they use in general when they do their reading. So some students highlight a lot, some students write in the margins of their pages, some students write physical notes while they're reading, and some students don't do any of that. So you can really encourage students to use the version of their personal study method that's available in this program. If they don't use any study methods, try to find out what might be most helpful for them and encourage them to give it a try. So that really covers everything that is in the web version of Kurzweil 3000. The last related thing that I want to go over is, it's still Kurzweil, but it is called Read the Web, and it is a Kurzweil extension that you can get for either the Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox browser. Unfortunately, it's not available in Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, or Safari. So if you want to use this function I'm about to show you, you have to use Google Chrome or Firefox. Google Chrome is the easiest one to get to. The Firefox download for this program is actually on the Kurzweil website, and it's kind of buried in there. If you want to download that version of the program, I have a written guide that's in my SSD file or SSD folder that someone from the office can access, and they can find that download for you and give it to you if you prefer Firefox. For Chrome, to get the extension, I'm actually going to go to the Chrome Web Store. So I can just search for Chrome Web Store and click on the first link. Now the extension is called Read the Web. So I'm going to search Read the Web and hit enter. And it's going to be this very first one you can see that is offered by kurzweiledu.com. Now normally you will have a button that says Add to Chrome. I already have it, so it says Rate It, but you will have this Add to Chrome button, so you would just click Add to Chrome and then Add Extension up here. And that will add the extension to your computer and to your Google Chrome browser. Once it's added, you will see it available to you up in the top right of your screen. So in the top right of your Google Chrome browser, you'll see the Kurzweil icon. So you can see it up here and it has a red line through it. If it ever has a red line through it, that means that for whatever reason on that page, it cannot read what is available. Once it's just grayed out and there's no line, that means that it can read what's available, it's just not currently turned on. So I'm just going to go to CNN.com and I'm just going to open up a sample news article just so I can show you what this does. All it does is it does what Kurzweil does in the fact that it will read what's on the page, but it does it for web pages. So if you're someone who does a lot of web reading, this can be incredibly helpful. Now this can help you in, it works in your Gmail, it works in your Google Docs, it works in Blackboard, My Courses. So really it can work in a number of different ways, so a lot of students can find this incredibly helpful. So now you can see the icon is grayed out up here. I'm going to click on it. I'm just going to restart it because it doesn't look quite right. There we go. So now you can see I want to sign with a username and password. The username and password is going to be the exact same as the same information that you use to sign into Kurzweil in the first place. And once it loads, you can see that it just has the same exact functionality of Kurzweil, but for web pages. So you won't actually have study tools or anything like that available to you. You will have stuff like a play button and your audio options as well. So again, you can see there's no highlighters, no notes, no bookmarks. But now you have a play button and you have this gear icon with your audio options inside of it. And this icon will actually link you to the Kurzweil 3000 website. Once this is running, you can just click anywhere on the page and this green cursor will appear instead of the normal red cursor. And once that appears, we just click play.
Happens when two cultural phenomena combine for an epic multimedia crossover.
And you can see it reads the web page. So for certain students, that can be incredibly helpful in reading through web material. Now, I am just realizing that this video has gone a little long, and I was going to go over just administrative stuff and also do some edit underlying text and zone editing and stuff. I'm going to save that for a separate, shorter video. So I'm going to end this video now. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions about the program, please reach out to someone in the SSD office. And again, I hope this was helpful.